Hey everybody, welcome back. This is A Better Way with Gersten Kimura podcast. And today I have a super awesome guest with me today. Hi, Musa, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to talk today a lot about being a highly sensitive person and weightlifting. So this is super exciting. I mean, I have talked about it quite some time now, how strength training can help us to just handle life better, like be better, like have better stress tolerance and a lot of other like really empowering things that come with it. So this is what today's topic is going to be. But before that, I wanted to real quick announce one more time. I've talked about a couple of times on a podcast that right now I have a new strength training program that I just created. It is called Train to Build Starter. And this is the program for those of you who have not started strength training yet, have never done it, or who have done it but have had a year or even longer break from it and want to get back to it. This program is very safe. It's body weights and bands only. It's a perfect starting point for everybody. And if you use the code Fresh Start, you can get $10 off the program. So this is good until May 24th. I'm going to put the link to the program in the show notes so everybody who's interested can get it. So that's all for that. So hi again, and I would like to hear a little bit more about you, Mel. How would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. So my name is Melissa, and I have always been kind of an active, outgoing person. I've always tried and sought community, and I remember in high school always being involved in extracurriculars and sports, and that was something that really kept me grounded on top of schoolwork. And I think at home, I've always been kind of the empathetic person who
Hmm.
could always kind of, I would say, like the peacekeeper, maybe in
Yeah,
my family.
yeah.
So that was part of, I guess, part of my upbringing was actually living in like two houses,
Mhm.
having like separate households, divorced parents, but overall just having like a very loving and supporting family. And now I've since left home, moved states from California to Arizona. And here in Arizona, I've really found kind of my home, my community, and also weightlifting as a very integral part of my personality that really wasn't present like prior to 5 years ago. So
Hmm.
it's been great.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about you said you've been very empathetic and kind of peacekeeper in your house. So you would also say that you are a highly sensitive person, right?
Yes, definitely. I definitely see it as a superpower because
Hmm.
highly sensitive people tend to be very detail oriented and can pick up on subtleties,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to nonverbal communication. Just being able to kind of have a natural, like a knack for understanding how the people feel and maybe what um, like ways to help them improve themselves. I feel like I'm also like my astrological sign is a Virgo, so that was I guess like the archetype tends to be people who love to help others, um, are really good at pattern recognition as well,
Hmm.
and I think that really ties into the highly sensitive part of my personality.
Okay. So what are some of the other things that make you like highly sensitive? How do you know? And when did you start to realize this whole thing?
I didn't know about the HSP trait until probably around 3 or 4 years ago when I think Alyssa was the first HSP mentor and uh, I guess person I could look up to where her Instagram is absolutely great. And it wasn't until I saw her posts about maybe being like finely attuned, but also being very susceptible to over functioning and wanting to give and give. And that's one area where I kind of started to notice some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
I think one example too was really um, so like my detail orientedness.
Mhm.
I love keeping calendars, and one of the ways I was kind of over functioning was maybe keeping my partner's calendar and wanting to keep track of like all of their activities day to day, but then just feeling like burnt out and stressed from it. And then I started realizing that it's okay to say no, it's okay to set boundaries. And that's when the whole highly sensitive person kind of became whole, where it wasn't a part where I was just sensitive to everything, but it was more empowering where I am detail oriented. I do care a lot and I do feel very deeply,
Mhm.
um, especially when it comes to rejection. But now feeling like from an empowered standpoint, I can now like better navigate different situations that were difficult for me before.
Yeah. When you found out about this, that, being an HSP and that this thing even exists, did you feel like a lot of your questions got answered suddenly?
Yes, I
Yeah.
felt like everything clicked for the first
Yep.
time,
Yep. Same. It was,
especially, yeah, not knowing why I reacted certain ways, this situations. I think like frustration and overwhelm um, was definitely very present where I felt um, like as an empathetic person, I could take like I could keep like taking other people's energy and having it integrate as a part of me, but then it gets to the point where it's like a tea kettle and you kind of like you know, kind of boils over.
sure. Absolutely.
And I just realized that I was a little bit different in that realm where some situations that really wouldn't bother other people, like
Mhm.
rejection or having someone like not like them, like really deeply like affected me. And I really like took it to heart where um it would like someone not liking me was really like it felt like a personal attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Exactly the same thing here. Like this has probably been the biggest thing for me. Like, we have like all kinds of different traumas and patterns, but the fear of rejection or fear of like abandonment was so strong. And like if there's a little bit of like threat, even if it's not real, but your brain thinks there's a threat like that, then it can really, cause a lot of anxiety and overthinking, and that comes with a lot of exhaustion. And it's just like a spiral, and it's not a healthy place to be until you find some tools that will help you.
Yes, definitely. And I think even that like survival mechanism of like that has developed by like helping others and like feeling validation too. I think that's
Yeah.
another like pretty common trait amongst HSPs.
Yeah. And we tend to be like teachers or guides or helpers in some shape or form, right? So we always want to be useful. And like I said, kind of earning our value through that sometimes almost, right? That's what it feels like.
Yes, a lot of external validation
Hmm.
where if I know that I'm okay and someone else is validating that, that's very closely tied to self-worth.
Yeah.
And it definitely took some unlearning to realize, like, no, everyone's worthy just because they are, and you have to come to a point where your self-worth comes from within, not from how other people feel about you, even if it's close friends or family that may have the best intentions.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to share like a couple of things that helped you with that specifically? How did you raise your self-worth so that, this validation wasn't as important for you anymore?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first part is just awareness, and it was until I started realizing that I think I really came to the HSP and the work from a place when I was burnt out all the time at work and at my relationship at home, and not feeling very empowered, but still feeling very stuck where I didn't really know what to do. And I saw that Alyssa had a course on HSPs and empowerment, and I decided to start learning more about the qualities that make us, great and empathic and awesome at. I like the term nonviolent communication, where you're really able to um, kind of mediate a situation and stay level, while other people might become very defensive or
Hmm.
um, explosive, even at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started realizing like I do have like a very kind heart and I am very giving, but sometimes like it's almost like being a doormat where sometimes like
Mhm.
you're very welcoming, but sometimes you don't have boundaries and then you let kind of people like step on you.
Yes.
Um and it wasn't until I started I think journaling more about it where I was like, oh, okay, like recognizing, oh, this is um an area where I set to fail boundaries, and then let me reframe that and say that, okay, like if something makes me uncomfortable, I can say no
Mhm.
and not feel that fear of abandonment.
Hmm. Yeah. This is so interesting. And it's also funny because today I had a session with my own coach. We talked about exactly the same thing and we used exactly the same word, doormat. Right? You don't want to be a doormat,
Yeah,
right? So you don't want to be the person who takes all the crap when somebody is like angry, but you also don't want to be the one who's like fires back, right? So you have to find the like middle ground who's like balanced and okay. And my coach used the word like facing. You just face the situation and like find balance
right.
there instead of going on like either one of the other extremes, right? Like either being a doormat or just like firing back. So
Hmm, hmm.
yeah, okay, that's super interesting, and I'm sure that that's something we could talk about like all day. But today, definitely want to talk about strength training and weightlifting, and how has that helped you as an HSP? Why don't you first also describe to our listeners what is Olympic lifting? This is what you are doing. So, what does it look like? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people don't know.
Oh yeah, of course. And before I even got into Olympic weightlifting, I had never even heard of it as like a sport
Hmm.
or something that really existed. I think my first introduction to Olympic weightlifting was watching the CrossFit Games Netflix Fittest on Earth documentary. And you have these really strong, like very toned, ripped athletes
Hmm.
that all of a sudden are using a barbell. So, like the long metal bar, they have all kinds of weights on it. And they're bringing this weight not only up here to their shoulders, but also like overhead.
Hmm.
And there's two key Olympic weightlifting movements. There's the snatch, which is one continuous motion with a wide grip, and the barbell starts on the ground and then is in one motion lifted directly over your head. And then the second movement is the clean and jerk, where you start with a narrow stance. You bring the barbell to the front rack position right in front of you, and then you dip and drive the barbell over your head to a lockout position. And then the best part is when you drop all the weights on the floor. And
Yep.
I remember when I first started, my mom always having that pet peeve of like, I don't understand why people just drop weights at the gym. But it just took me doing the sport, realizing like, they're using bumper plates. You're not damaging the weight at all or the floor as long as you do it properly. And then also the other funny thing is you don't get extra points for dropping it softly.
Yes.
So you can just kind of drop it and reset. And Olympic weightlifting is great. It's challenging. It takes a lot of attention to detail, and it's not only, physical, you have to be athletic to be able to lift, say, like 150 or 200 pounds off the floor. But you also have to be like dynamic, explosive, and you also really have to trust yourself. And that's the part that I try and communicate the most with people who are interested in weightlifting or thinking about getting into it is the stronger you become mentally and the more you're able to trust your body and connect with yourself, the more weight you're able to lift. And I've
Yes.
definitely experienced mental blocks of feeling down or feeling self-doubt of, oh, I don't know if I could do this. And it's almost like the weight just becomes heavier right in front of you, even though it might be a weight I've done before.
It is so true. Oh my goodness. It's like some days you go to the gym and you have this like super empowered mindset, like for whatever reason, right? And you just feel like a badass because you are. And then the weight just comes off the floor a lot easier versus like when you're, I don't know, telling yourself some negative stories or you don't believe in yourself. Everything's a lot harder. And it is a mental game because also like you could tell somebody that okay, there is like 50 pounds on the bar and you're gonna squat that, but actually you put 70 on it. They didn't know it's 70 and they can still squat it because they thought it's 50, right? So it's the same thing, like it's all mental.
Yeah, something that I've noticed that coaches do sometimes with new clients or people who don't really know how to count the weights quite
Mhm.
yet is they'll put more weight and they won't tell them how much is on there. And you can see people just really thrive and be able to lift things that they don't even know that they could do. Like they hear a number and then they kind of ruminate over that number, like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
100 pounds, that's really heavy. But
Yeah.
then not knowing that, wow, like I tried it and it was easy and I could do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Very true. So you didn't get started with Olympic lifting until when you moved to Arizona, right? That was after college.
Right after college, around 5 years ago. So I was 22
Hmm.
and had never even squatted with a barbell,
Hmm.
lifted a weight, lifted a dumbbell, kettlebell, anything like that. I was always kind of the runner type who
Hmm.
liked to go on long runs and played soccer
Hmm.
and that thing.
Yeah. How did you feel about it at first? Like, was it intimidating? Like, oh, I'm gonna start lifting weights.
Yes, I think the first thought that came to mind was, I don't know if I'm doing this right.
Hmm.
And it definitely helped having a trainer who was experienced and can kind of give me some cues on how to position myself, even how to like grip the bar in a way that's like most effective. And it took me doing it a couple times to realize, oh, this is great. I'm good and I'm improving. So that was
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm. Okay. And so now you've been doing this for 5 years, and you have lifted some pretty impressive weights. I think you said 176 pounds of, was it which lift was that?
Yeah, that
It
was the clean
was
and jerk.
clean and jerk. Okay. So
Yes.
170, and what is your body weight? You're nowhere near that body weight. I know.
No, my body weight is it's in Olympic weightlifting, everything is in kilograms.
Uh-huh.
So I have to think about this, but in I'm 64 kilograms, which is approximately 140 pounds.
Yes, somewhere there. Yeah, okay. So, and you're able to, clean the weight and press it overhead. That's really impressive.
Yes, yes. Max clean and jerk is 185, although
Mm-hmm.
I've cleaned it and gotten to this point,
Mm-hmm.
but haven't completed the jerk for up to 200 pounds. So
Oh my God. That is
it's
that
still
is
on
really
my
impressive.
my bucket list to get it overhead.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about how has lifting empowered you as an HSP? What has improved for you, like mentally, emotionally? Let's talk about that.
Ooh, it's really touched on all aspects of my life when it comes to career, romantic relationships, and also, um, I guess, mental health as well.
Hmm.
Starting with career, it really helped me be able to, I guess, lower my stress day to day. I work as an engineer, and not every day is, rainbows and sunshine. Main part of my job is being able to assess problems quickly and find a solution.
Hmm.
And when it comes to stress tolerance, it's definitely increased my capacity for being able to solve difficult problems in a way that I think I would feel very overwhelmed beforehand.
Hmm.
Weightlifting has really helped with that.
Hmm.
When it comes to personal relationships, I once I started weightlifting, I felt more empowered to speak up and speak my needs, which before was very hard for me
Hmm.
as a highly sensitive person. Being able to communicate that, I guess, like even saying that I have a need felt
Yeah.
like an inconvenience,
Oh yeah. So
and
much
that
less.
yeah,
Hmm.
for so being able to put forth things that I need that would help me feel more regulated,
Hmm.
less more calm, less anxious, I guess,
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. It's so interesting that a lot of people actually think that, okay, when I start, and specifically HSPs, like when I start exercising, like I'm tired already, I'm overwhelmed already, by life things. So I can't even imagine start adding exercise into my day-to-day life because that's going to make things even worse. So what would you say to that?
Oh, definitely. When it comes to trying anything new, especially with just fitness for the first time, the first week, even 2 weeks, are going to be tiring, where you're going to feel sore in
Mhm.
places that you didn't even know you could feel sore.
Yeah.
But kind of adding to that, you also feel like confident in the sense of accomplishment and goal setting, where you tried something difficult and you met it, whether that was starting at the gym twice a week or trying a movement that you've never experienced before. And coincidentally, even though working out for an hour a day is exhausting, ironically, you start finding yourself having more energy.
Mhm.
And um, I know that the days I don't work out, I feel a little bit more depleted, a little bit more irritated. But the days I do work out, I feel I have a lot more energy and I can tackle anything.
Mm. So it's, basically like initially when you get started, yes, you may feel more tired because this is a new thing. You may feel more sore and so on. But as you get used to it, it becomes a part of you and it becomes something that actually helps you, right, in your everyday life.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's why I'm also thinking like when people are new and like I said, they can be so afraid of like, oh my God, I'm gonna start exercising. Yes, if you are a little bit more tired and sore the first 2 weeks, don't give up just because of that. Right? It's normal. Everybody who
Yeah,
works out is sore every now and then. So this is normal. This is nothing to be like afraid of, right?
absolutely. The benefits definitely outweigh the drawbacks.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of cool things you said that how you've gotten like stronger. You also mentioned like, tweaking your needs and becoming perhaps like more assertive. So what do you see? What is the transformation there? How does it happen? Like, okay, you get physically stronger. How come you are now mentally tougher? How does it happen?
Oh, well, there has to be something said about the ability of lifting 200 pounds in a deadlift
Hmm.
and then realizing that you are unstoppable. And when you're weightlifting, you really have to silence your mind and really be present and in the moment. You're not thinking about the future or any kind of issues that you might be having at work or at home. And that really translates day to day where you can start feeling like, yeah, like I have the power to say no. Like I have the power to do things that bring me joy. And it really sets the tone for your friendships and your family relationships. I know like family relationships can also be kind of tough as HSPs because, all these people have known you since you're at childhood, and that's when a lot of this like empathetic and overgiving nature comes up. But yeah, weightlifting has definitely helped with, putting boundaries and realizing that, you can do difficult things,
Hmm.
whether it's in the gym or outside of the gym.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And that's how I feel like why in this like HSP world, and also I talk to a lot of to people who have something called TMS, so chronic symptoms in the body that come from heightened nervous system. So, like I feel like this is sort of like a missing piece. Like there are a lot of people who talk about how to heal from TMS and how to like navigate life better as a TMS, as an HSP. But then I don't see too many people like talking about like how empowering strength training is. Like I think it's so important to add that aspect in there too, because I've had several people who have told me that this was the missing piece. Like now I actually feel like a whole person, right? Of course they were a whole person before too. They just didn't feel this way until they started actually moving some weight. And
Yeah.
yeah, and for some
You
people,
definitely learn a lot about your body too.
yeah. Okay, tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, so definitely body awareness is heightened as well when you have like pain or discomfort in some areas. You can now do movements that decrease that amount of pain. Um, I am definitely thinking back to the times as part of like my weightlifting journey. I also had availability to like a physical therapist that was in the gym who could evaluate like, oh, like my shoulder kind of hurts when I do this movement, or not a lot of pain but just discomfort, like can you take a look at that? And then I had coaches and physical therapists being like, oh, like um, maybe like one muscle's working harder than the others and it's not like firing properly, like you should try and work on this specific movement that can strengthen this area. And then what do you know, like all of a sudden the pain's gone after like a week or two. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a process of understanding what your body responds well to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is obviously like example if you actually did something wrong or something in your movement pattern was incorrect or could have done better, right? Then you can develop pain. But I just want to say to those who are listening who have TMS and who know that their problem is not coming from a physical source, it's coming from brain and nervous system. They're two different things. But of course, your example is great for like if you actually have, physical
Yes.
injury or
Thank you for
something
making
coming
that
up.
distinction.
Yeah, because I know,
Absolutely.
I just saying because I know how people with TMS, how they are. They're like, oh, no, but she said it's actually a physical thing. Like, no, she didn't say that. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So when you get started, actually, when I go back there for a second too, and you get started, was it, obviously right now you're lifting very heavy. How did the whole process go? Because like when we're HSPs, we can sometimes be like way too like detail oriented too, and like a little perfectionistic, and like and think like I'm not doing things correctly, and be a little bit hard on ourselves. Did you experience that too?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is where having a good coach that you trust comes into play,
Mm-hmm.
where this person becomes your ally and almost can see you for all of your future potential. And it always starts little by little. I remember I was just looking at some of my earliest videos weightlifting, and there comes a point where you start with the bar, then you add maybe like 10 kilos to the to each side, and then all of a sudden you can do that and you can do it comfortably and confidently. And then your coach says like, okay, add 5 kilos. And even if you don't have a coach available near you, there's like so many wonderful online programs like the one that you have that you mentioned that can help you progress. And it all starts as building blocks of starting with one weight and then feeling like, okay, I did that. Let me see what 5 pounds heavier feels like. And then you
Yeah.
just keep building that, I would say that tolerance
Yeah. Yeah.
up and up.
Yeah. So true. Like everybody was a beginner at some point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember I didn't, from never having deadlifted before. And then I remember my coach saying, like, okay, like add 50 kilos to the bar, 60 kilos, 70 kilos, all the way to 90 kilos. And I I don't know what 90 kilos was, and not knowing that was actually 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened probably within the first 6 months of me weightlifting. It's kind of cool once you start weightlifting, a lot of your numbers go up pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
as you start getting the technique. So that part's really fun, um, and it takes you feeling like confident with the earlier numbers to feel like you can get to the heavier ones. And sometimes a coach can be the right person to tell you what your capacity is and what you're ready for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you went from 0 to 200 pounds in 6 months. That's pretty fast, actually.
Yeah, it was an awesome and definitely like once I got to 200 pounds, then okay, getting to 205 and 210 became a little bit harder.
Yes.
Um, but I definitely had the background of, I guess, at like soccer, where I'm very like lower body built with like quads and stuff. Um, but it weightlifting is just such a different modality that even though I had some baseline level of fitness, um, I could still like try something new. And I've also seen the same kind of um, progression too with people who've had no sports background, but have
Mm-hmm.
wanted to just try something new and and weightlifting has also given them that path
Mm-hmm.
to like maybe if your jump isn't from 0 to 200, maybe it's 0 to 100,
Yeah.
but then you have all these other benefits of feeling empowered and
Mm-hmm.
feel like self-confident that you did something very difficult. Because I mean, 100 pounds is also um, very, very heavy. My dog is practically 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So equating that to the gym, you can also see milestones of like, I did this at the gym and now I can lift my dog, you know,
Yes.
up on the bed or on the couch or up the stairs if needed. I think that's another reason why I wanted to get into weightlifting is because I know if I was on a hike with my dog and something were to happen to him, I would want to be able to be self-sufficient in taking care of him if I needed to carry him.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also had family members who have either children or are caretakers of someone with a disability who might seek weightlifting as a way to strengthen their ability and their capacity to care for a loved one.
Yeah, yeah. We have to think about too that too, like staying strong, for life, right? It's not, yeah, the body composition change, that's awesome and all the good things, but like to stay independent and strong as we get older, like this is such a big thing. It's so important. And just muscle is such a valuable tissue. Like a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people are thinking only, oh, how can I get the weight down? I gotta lose weight. But what if we like flip the switch here or script here a little bit and think, how can I gain more muscle? How can I get stronger? What are the benefits that come with that, right? Like real life
Yes,
benefits.
I love that you said that because it's just increasing your self reliance and your self trust.
Hmm.
Where with HSPs, we usually like to seek input from other people, but knowing that you have this power within yourself
Yeah.
to, lift something, whether it's a child or if it's your dog, you can do it on your own.
Yeah, it is very
Yeah, it feels
empowering.
very empowering.
Empowering, yeah, and then you're excited, then you're proud of yourself, and that's just, I feel like we need more of it because like we talked at the beginning of this podcast, like we tend to rely so much on like what others say. Do they validate us? Like, were they critical? Like, if you can like kind of set that aside and let that um, confidence come from the inside, then it feels a lot different. It feels like I don't need other people to tell me that. I know that I'm really strong, right? It's such a cool shift that happens over time, if you practice weights, and of course also you practice mindset work at the same time. It can't be just one or the other.
Right, right. I'm so glad you said that. I know one thing that was kind of echoed back to me once I started weightlifting was, no, don't do that. You're gonna hurt yourself, or that's too heavy. You're gonna hurt your back. But I really want to emphasize that it's like a tolerance that's built over time too. I'm not going from 0 to 200 overnight. It definitely, I'll say this caveat. I was in the gym like I think 5 days a week once I
Hmm.
started. I just delved into it and I loved it. And I went to class for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it was something to the point where I built up this tolerance over time. So I knew this was like a load that could be managed very
Hmm.
safely and
Yeah,
in a
yeah. Plus
structured
you're
environment.
really young and could handle that amount of training. Like a lot of older people just don't handle this much volume, right? Like a couple of hours, 5 days a week. But in your 20s you can't do that. Then it's
Yes,
easier.
definitely. Yeah,
Easier.
depending on schedule too. I think when I started lifting too, it was in 2020
Mhm.
during COVID as well. So I
Mhm.
think I had less, I guess, external obligations where I had that freedom to go to the gym for that time.
Yeah, yeah. And the strength is so different for everybody. Somebody who's never done anything, doing squats with 15-pound dumbbells, it's a big win, and you got to celebrate that. Like it's
Oh,
all relative,
absolutely.
right? It's you know, like I said before, everybody was once a beginner, and you are where you are. It's fine.
Yes, it's less about the numbers, it's more about starting for sure.
Yeah, getting started, taking the first step. So what would you tell somebody who is like thinking, yeah, kind of want to get started with this strength training thing, but I'm intimidated. How's that going to work out? Like, do you have any tips for a person who's thinking that way?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is finding a friend who can be an expander, who maybe might already be familiar with working out. You can definitely join them. If not, you can always, I have many long distance friends that I communicate with over text, even having an accountability buddy or someone who supports your goals.
Hmm.
That could be a great way to start as well. I definitely always recommend, if you can, finding a coach who is familiar with weightlifting and strength training to be your guide, at least for the first 6 months to a year, where you're still learning the movements and understanding the movement patterns.
Hmm.
That can also be a great start. Or online programs are definitely another way to do it. There's just so many resources available,
Hmm.
and as long as you um, do something that works for you and your schedule, I think it's definitely accessible. And I definitely remember when I first started working out, COVID, that was during a time when like weights were very, very expensive,
Yes.
where gym equipment was very expensive.
Hmm.
So even using like the jugs of Clorox, like the gallon jugs, can is a weight that you could definitely use.
Hmm.
Um, and you could definitely be resourceful.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this chat today. Is there anything that I didn't ask about, but you feel like it's important to add?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I definitely wanted to add that through strength training and HSP, being an HSP, the one thing that I've also found very valuable for me is finding community too. And I definitely have felt intimidated before walking into the gym. I remember in college, I never even wanted to go to the gym by myself. That was like my biggest fear.
Mm.
But definitely, I want to encourage people to take that step and, uh, you know, go out there because there are people who would love to connect with you. And I think finding community is also really important to feeling supported as an HSP.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much. It is Friday, so I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.